There is a wall in almost every old barn in this country where the tools still hang. Not arranged, just left. A wrench on a bent nail. A plane sitting on a sill with sawdust in it from a job somebody finished in 1952 and then went in for supper. An anvil by the door that nobody has moved in 40 years because nobody wants to. To look at that wall, it is rust and it is junk. And it is one afternoon with a trailer away from being gone. In October of 2006, a copper weather vane taken off a building sold at Sotheby's in New York for $5,840,000. That is not a typo, and it is not a museum piece from Europe. It is a thing that sat outside in the weather on top of an American barn. Now, that is the top of the mountain, and I will tell you about it properly at the end. But here is the part that ought to bother you today. An anvil weighs 140 pounds. Scrap steel pays somewhere around a nickel to a dime a pound. So a man who loads that anvil onto a trailer and drives it to the scale gets somewhere between $7 and $14 for it. And the fellow running the scale knows exactly what just came off that truck. My name is Walter Northwood, and today we are counting down 10 old tools still hanging in barns and sheds right now. From the ones almost everybody has to the one at the very top. After each one, I will give you a short checklist, so you can actually use this. And by the end, you will be able to walk into any old outbuilding, look at that wall, and know in about 30 seconds whether you are looking at $40 of scrap or something you should not let out of the building. Before we start, tell me in the comments where you are watching from and whether there is a barn or an old shed on the property. Ontario, Tennessee, somewhere across the water, doesn't matter to me. I read them. And stay with me through number 3, because that one is the category where the honest numbers run from $20 to $20,000 for objects that look nearly identical hanging on a nail. And if you do not know what separates them, you will hand somebody a fortune for a $5 bill. Now let me be straight with you before we count a single tool, because most videos on this subject will not be. Most old tools are not worth thousands of dollars. They are not close. A good, honest Keen Kutter wrench, the kind your grandfather actually used, runs $15 to $125 depending on which one it is and what shape it is in. A Winchester marked wrench, and yes, Winchester-made tools, runs around $100. Those are real numbers for genuinely nice old objects, and they are nowhere near the auction headlines. I will go further. There is a broad axe that the internet has decided is treasure, the goose wing, with the curved head shaped like a bird's wing, brought over by German settlers into Pennsylvania. Beautiful thing. Genuinely early. Auction estimates on signed examples run $50 to $150. I am telling you that because you will find a dozen videos telling you otherwise, and I would rather you hear the true number from me. The headline pieces are outliers, and they are outliers because of rarity, not age. Old is common. Rare is valuable. Those are two different things, and every person who ever got burned in this hobby got burned by confusing them. But rare is also hanging on a nail in a building somebody is planning to clean out this fall. Before the countdown, 4 things that apply to every tool you will ever pick up. First, look for a name. Not a size stamp, not a patent number, a maker's name. American tool makers marked their work because the name was the guarantee, and the ones collectors Chase, Stanley, Keen Kutter, Winchester, Peter Wright, Loudon, Myers, all put their name where you can find it. A tool with no name on it anywhere is usually a tool nobody was proud of. Turn it over, check the heel, check the underside of the handle socket, check the flat by the hinge. The marks are small and 60 years of rust hides them. Wipe it with an oily rag before you decide there is nothing there. Second, completeness. This is the one that costs people the most money and nobody warns them. A plane with its original cutters and fence and box is worth several times the same plane with the body only. An anvil with the horn broken off is a doorstop. A hay trolley missing its trip mechanism is half a hay trolley. If there is a box, a booklet, a bag of odd little parts in the drawer underneath, that is not clutter. That is most of the value. Do not throw the box away. People throw the box away. Third, size runs backwards from what you expect. With a lot of these tools, the small ones are the valuable ones, because small ones were impractical, so the factory made few of them, and few is what collectors pay for. Big and heavy usually means common. That anvil by the door being enormous does not make it worth more. It makes it worth about $4 a pound. Fourth, do not clean it. I mean this. Not with a wire wheel, not with a grinder, not with anything that takes metal off. Collectors pay for original surface, and a bright shiny tool that has been ground back to clean steel has had most of its value removed along with the rust. An oily rag and patience. That is all. All right, number 10. The wrenches on the wall. Every barn has them. A bent nail with 4 or 5 wrenches hanging off it. Most of them for a machine that left the property before you were born. Keen Kutter, which was the Simmons hardware brand out of St. Louis, is the one you will see most, and honest values run $15 to $125 a piece. Winchester marked ones run around $100. That is not life-changing money, but there are 40 wrenches on that wall in some barns, and a man clearing the building throws the whole nail's worth into a bucket and sells the bucket for $11. Your checklist. Wipe the shank and look for a name. Keen Kutter used a distinctive logo, a wedge shape with the words inside it. If you find one, set it aside separately, and do not straighten a bent one. Bent original beats straightened every time. Number 9. The Goosewing Broad Axe. I said what I said. $50 to $150 on the auction estimates. But I am putting it on the list anyway because it is genuinely one of the earliest tool forms in North America. The German settlers carried the pattern into Pennsylvania, and by about 1830 the symmetrical broad axes had pushed it out entirely. So a real one on your wall is a legitimately early object, and early objects have a way of finding the right buyer eventually. Your checklist. The head is asymmetrical, flat on one face, beveled on the other, because it was made for hewing a round log flat, and a man swung it along the log, not into it. The curve of the head is the wing. Look for a maker's stamp on the flat cheek. Number 8. Barn drop pulleys. The cast iron pulleys bolted up in the peak of the barn, part of the hay carrier system. Individual pieces sell around $150. They look like scrap. They are hanging 30 feet up in the dark, and nobody has looked at them since the hay went in loose, which for most of this country was before 1960. Your checklist. Look up. That is genuinely the checklist. Take a flashlight into the mow and look at the ridge. Then look for a cast name on the side plate. Number 7. The English Anvil, Armitage mouse hole out of Sheffield. A 95-pound one in fair condition, sold at auction for $150. Not a fortune. But the mouse hole is a genuinely old English pattern. They are prone to sagging in the face, which is called swayback, and a straight-faced one in honest shape is worth considerably more than a tired one. Your checklist. Look at the top face along its length, eye level, like sighting down a rifle. If it dips in the middle, that is swayback and it cost you. Then look at the side for the name and for a weight stamp in the old English hundredweight system, 3 numbers, which is itself a sign of age. Number 6. The hay trolley. Here is where it gets interesting, and this is the one I promised you at the end of the cast iron video. The trolley is the wheeled carriage that ran along the track at the peak of the barn and carried the hay fork down the length of the mow. Myers, out of Ashland, Ohio, and Loudon and Ney and Porter and Starline. Complete Myers trolleys sell in the $260 to $350 range. And there are collectors who are serious about this in a way that will surprise you. There is a man with over 900 pulleys in his collection who keeps written records so he does not buy a duplicate. Some designs, like the Loudon Mammoth, are rare enough that a collector may own the only example he has ever seen outside a manufacturer's catalog. Your checklist. Complete matters more here than anywhere else on this list. The trip rope mechanism, the pulley wheels, the fork hardware. A complete trolley is a trolley. An incomplete one is iron, and the maker's name is cast right into the body, usually on the side plate, usually still readable under the dust. Number 5. The Peter Wright Anvil, the good English anvil. Peter Wright, Dudley, England, and they came to this country by the shipload. The rule of thumb collectors use is around $4 a pound, and complete examples list around $700. So that anvil by the barn door, the one nobody wants to move. If it is 140 pounds and it says Peter right on the side, you are standing next to $500 or $600 and the scrap man will give you 11. Your checklist. The name is stamped on the side of the body, often faint. Sight the face for sway back like we did with the mouse hole. Check the horn for a break and the heel for cracks. And check the face for chunks broken out of the edge, because a clean edge is what a working smith is actually paying for. Number 4. The Stanley combination and specialty planes. Now we are into the money. Stanley made planes that did specific jobs, and because those jobs were narrow, they sold few of them. The number 445 dovetail plane is the example I can put a hard number on. One sold complete in its original box, with the fence, the instruction booklet, a sample wooden dovetail, 4 cutters in a wooden box, both spur blocks, and the little screwdriver for $649.75 at Brown's 49th International Antique Tool Auction. A dealer currently asks $1,495 for a fine one in the box. Read that list of parts again. The booklet, the sample dovetail, the little screwdriver. That is what complete means, and that is what most of the $600 is. Your checklist. Any Stanley plane with a lot of extra loose parts is worth stopping for. Find the box, find the paper, find the small bag of cutters somebody put in a coffee can. Then look up the model number which is cast into the body. Number 3. The wrench you cannot identify. I told you to stay for this one. The honest range on antique wrenches as a category runs from $20 to $20,000. And the difference is not size and it is not condition. It is which company made it, how long they made it for, and whether that company failed early enough that few of them exist. Most of what is on your wall is at the $20 end, but the wrenches that bring real money are usually the ones people cannot identify. The odd shape for a machine nobody remembers. The buggy wrench, the implement wrench with a name on it from a company that went under in 1890. There are dedicated antique wrench auctions in this country. That is a real thing that exists. Your checklist, and this is the important one on this whole list. Do not sell what you cannot identify. If you have a wrench and you cannot work out what it is for or who made it, that is exactly the wrench to photograph and ask about before it goes in the bucket. The unidentifiable ones are where the money hides, and a man clearing a barn sells the strange one first because it looks useless. Number 2. The Stanley number 1 bench plane, 5.5 inches long. It fits in your palm. It is the smallest bench plane Stanley made, and it is very nearly useless for actual woodworking, which is exactly why it is worth what it is worth. Almost nobody bought them, so Stanley made few, and collectors who want a complete run of Stanley bench planes need one, and there are not enough to go around. Excellent original examples run $2,500 to $4,000 and above. A Sweetheart-era example sold for $1,350, and here is the number that should stay with you. Even a worn, used, honestly beaten, one runs $400 to $700. For the little plane in the drawer that looks like a toy. That is the one that gets thrown out because it is small and it looks like it cannot do anything. Your checklist. Measure it. 5.5 inches long is the whole ball game. Then look for the Stanley name on the cutter and the casting. Check that the cutter and cap are original to it, and do not, under any circumstance, take a wire wheel to it. And number 1. What is on the roof? Go outside. Look up at the peak. In October of 2006 at Sotheby's in New York, a molded copper weather vane made by the J.L. Mott Iron Works, a standing Indian figure 62 inches tall, sold for $5,840,000 including premium. It set the auction record for American folk art, and as far as I know, it still stands. It came out of the collection of Josephine and Walter Buell Ford, and it had been mounted on a house in Grosse Pointe Farms, Michigan. Now, I am not going to stand here and tell you there is $6 million on your barn. There is not. That vane is a masterpiece, and there are perhaps a handful of that caliber in existence. But I will tell you this. The reason weather vanes bring what they bring is that they are American folk sculpture that happen to have a job. Somebody hammered that copper into a horse or a cow or a rooster by hand in a shop, and then it went up on a roof and stood in the weather for a century. The ones that survive are survivors of hail and lightning and 150 winters, and every year there are fewer, and they come down off barns in this country every single week and go into the same trailer as the Anvil. Your checklist: copper, not steel, and you can tell by the color where the surface is worn and by the weight. Handmade will not be perfectly symmetrical side to side, and that is a good sign, not a flaw. Bullet holes are common and do not ruin it. Verdigris, that green, is original surface, and you leave it alone. And if it is a full-bodied figure rather than a flat silhouette, stop what you are doing and get it appraised before anything else happens to it. So that is the 10. Here is what I would like you to do, and it will take you 20 minutes. Go out to the building. Take a flashlight and a rag with a little oil on it. Start at the wall where the tools hang and work left to right, and on every single one, wipe the metal and look for a name. Then look up into the peak of the barn with the flashlight. Then walk outside and look at the roof line. You are not looking for treasure. You are looking for names and for completeness, and for the small things, because small is what the factory made few of. And when you find something, do not clean it, do not straighten it, do not take the wire wheel to it, and for the love of everything, do not throw the box away. Most of what you find will be worth $40. I have been honest with you about that from the start. But the difference between $40 and $4,000 is one man taking 20 minutes with a flashlight before the trailer comes, instead of after. Next time we are going into the cellar because there is a shelf down there with old glass on it, and some of those canning jars your grandmother put up beans in are worth more than the tools we just talked about. I am Walter Northwood. Thank you for spending a little time with me.